Let's bring in my friend Jennifer Welch from the I've Had It podcast. Jen is here. Great to see you. I mean, you and I were planning on talk about some other stuff. We're going to get to that. But I mean, I have to ask you what your reaction is to all of this. I mean, these pictures from inside Epstein Island, we've never seen this before. It's crazy, disturbing stuff.
It's so crazy. And
Yeah.
when you hear this, that this man is depraved. And it's something that your brain can jump around to, oh, Donald Trump is in the middle of this and they're trying to cover it up. And then when you see stuff like this, it takes you to a crime scene and you remember like these are very serious crimes of very powerful people. And the fact that after he was convicted the first time, that so many people, even the president of the United States, had him to the White House and had Thanksgiving with him after these crimes and his Ponzi scheme of child RAPE had been exposed, that because he was wealthy, they continued to, hang out with him. And it's so creepy to see it and know what they did to young girls and know how many people just excused it. It's really disturbing. And I also just always go back to, because I watched a documentary about this a couple of years ago. How does he have all this money? And that has never really been answered as to how he is so wealthy. And I hope that Robert Garcia keeps going. I have little faith in Pam Bondi or Dan Bongino or Cash Money Patel. I mean, it's just the blind leading the blind. But that dental chair, that is so disturbing.
And the masks on the wall, what the hell is that? I mean, it was like a hotel for pedophilia that Jeffrey Epstein was running on this island. And you're absolutely right. The questions need to be answered as to why Donald Trump was continuing to have this friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. He claims, I kicked him out of the club. He was a creep and all this stuff. According to the emails that were released by the Epstein estate, they still continued to talk. Steve Bannon was still talking to him. All of these big movers and shakers were still talking to him, associated with him. And when you talk about the financial records, it's quite possible that the reason why he accumulated all of this wealth was through a massive blackmail scheme, that he had the goods on so many people.
Completely. And there are names that come up with Bannon and with Mark Epstein and Jeffrey Epstein. One of them is Vladimir Putin. And we just witnessed this week, the United States of America sent, in my opinion, a Russian asset named Steve Witkoff, who is, you and I are more qualified to go negotiate with Putin than Steve Witkoff is. And that's a very low bar. No disrespect to you, Jim, but at least we would know what we were walking into. And Jared Kushner, who is just, he's so malleable and so inspired by doing business with homicidal killers. And you see that they didn't send the Secretary of State, and you see that Vladimir Putin, whose economy is in tatters, they're not paying their military, we're abandoning our allies. And there is a tie with Jeffrey Epstein to Putin having information on Trump, and that consistently keeps coming up. And then you understand why Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have completely sealed this off, and they are scrubbing the shit out of all of these files. I'm hopeful that maybe one of our allies somewhere has a copy of all of this. Because the light needs to continue to shine on this to expose this corruption that leads all the way to their Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right. And maybe Elon Musk has it too. Not that he's one of our allies, but he was the one that started all of this when he said Trump's name is in the Epstein files. And you're so right about this Russian connection. There was that email that came out from the Epstein estate. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein said to the Russians, if you really want to get to know Donald Trump, if you want to know all about him, you need to talk to me. I mean, the tentacles from this are just astronomical.
And that's before we even get to the blowjob to somebody named Bubba.
Exactly. Which we were told was not Bill Clinton, by the way, just so you know.
Right.
But there's some other Bubba out there.
My thing about that is, could you imagine Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld if there was an email from a convicted child sex rapist and trafficker talking about Barack Obama blowing somebody named Bubba, and that Putin had evidence on it. Think about the longevity they had with Bill Clinton's, with Monica Lewinsky. They impeached him for it. And the part of this makes me kind of mad at the Democrats, because I would just pick a couple of things and just keep hammering. And I think this goes to the heart of the toxic masculinity that Trump and MAGA are trying to emit to the public, when in essence, it's such a con job. But it's just wild, the connections, and then the way it goes along with the way the United States government is so obsequious to Vladimir Putin. It all connects.
Well, it's true. And the reason why Wickoff and Jared Kushner are there is because Trump is out to lunch. I mean, Jared Kushner is sort of there on behalf of the royal court of Donald Trump. And, when Trump is passing out in cabinet room meetings and Oval Office meetings, we can show this video from yesterday. I mean, the man is in REM mode there. He's out. And how many times did they bitch about Sleepy Joe Biden? Fox News did segment night after night on Sleepy Joe Biden. Who's the real president? Who's pulling the strings at the White House? And here's Sleepy, drowsy Don.
It's insane. And the cover that is being provided, not only by Fox News, they have spun this by saying Jesse Waters was like, he works 50-hour work weeks, and he was able to stay up the other night and posted 160 times, acting like that's not shit posting dementia sundowner hour. And then even Jake Tapper, I noticed today, said, well, he's a 79-year-old man. That's common for him to take a nap. And just the way this man has been excused and or celebrated or sane washed will be a stain on so many institutions in this country for a very, very, very long time. Because if I were to have asked you on January 7th, do you think Donald Trump's political career is over? You would have said, yes, he'll never come back from this.
That's right. I did. I was there at the White House when all that went down. I was there when he got kicked off of Twitter because they were worried he was going to incite another insurrection. And Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy, they all breathed life back into him like some sort of goddamn Frankenstein. And he came back and wreaked havoc in the countryside. Now he's back in the White House. But I mean, just to hammer home this point, here's Trump going off on Joe Biden for being Sleepy Joe. Let's play a little bit of this video. I think
Sleepy Joe would say the unemployment rate in the great state of Ohio. No, you're in South Carolina. Joe, you're in South. They come up and you ever see the guy that no, it's South Carolina. It's not Ohio. Okay. And he goes, all right, Iowa. Did you say Iowa? No.
He looks peppier here.
I did that like 7 times. If I did that once, it would be the end of the road, right? Be the end of the road. They'd say Trump has lost it. They like to say that anyway, I guess. Don't they? These people are bad people. Oh, Sleepy Joe. Well, he's running tomorrow. No, but could you imagine if I said just a small fraction of the mistakes he makes, which are unbelievable, every speech? I actually said the other night, I was watching him when he said about half the population wiped out with guns. I said, that's a horrible thing. That's the end of his evening. That's the end of his political career. And then after the debate, they're reviewing him. They said, Joe Biden had a great night last night.
Yeah, I mean, he goes on and on like this. And he did this repeatedly, Jennifer, to the point where it's incredible to watch this now. I mean, that's a different guy. I'm just going to say.
Totally different guy. I mean, that makes you, when you see him there, think about all of the leaking that came out of that reality show he was on about him doing Adderall. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I just read it on Elon Musk's free speech website. So I just wanted to share that. But here we have, it looks like benzodiazepine stroke victim, completely asleep. But his biology is something they can't spin. And this Fox News is covering this stuff, and then he's nodding off as they're all glazing him. Marco Rubio is like, only President Trump could fix the Russia-Ukraine thing. And he's over there just sawing logs. And again, Jim, I just want to go back to this. Sometimes I just have to pause and think, how is it that this abject piece of shit is celebrated? I get him being a crazy person. I get it. I understand him being crazy, having dementia, being a narcissist. I understand a single person having that. I get that because we all have somebody in our lives.
Yes.
The people that go along with this, the industry titans that have gone along with this, the fiscal conservatives that have gone along with this, the national security Republicans that are going along with this, the family values, the moral collapse of so many people, from Marco Rubio, who knows so much fucking better than the way he's acting,
Totally.
all the way down to your neighbor that lives next door that's a triple Trumper. The moral collapse of the capitulation of this man has made so many people worse human beings with each vote.
I agree with you. And I think part of the reason why, and I'll play this video next, is that he pushes people's buttons. When he wakes up from his nap, from dozing off, he spews racist hatred, as he did yesterday about Somali immigrants. Let's play this. I mean, this happened during the cabinet meeting. Doesn't get covered enough. Pure racism from the president of the United States.
These people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that, Scott. I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know.
Garbage. But I mean, Jennifer, this is, and it has to be said, pure racism from the president of the United States. He is a white nationalist.
100% he is. And Stephen Miller is his North Star in this. Donald Trump has been racist for decades. And then when you think about the type of people that would think, oh yeah, I'm going to go work for him, you know, you're getting just completely morally corrupt bottom feeders. And Stephen Miller, they call him Mr. Prime Minister around the White House. And because Trump doesn't typically care about policy. He wants to do his interior design projects. He wants to gossip with his friends on phone at night. I heard that he's been eating his meals in bed, having his pudding in bed, as you know, geriatric senior citizens do. No disrespect to any boomer viewers, but Stephen Miller is really psychotic about this. And the way he speaks about when you bring in an immigrant, you bring in their culture, and then their culture then breaks your culture. This is very white nationalist, fascist, and a lot of parallels to the 1930s Germany. And they get really, they get their panties in a wad when we call them out about this, but we must remain clear-eyed and call it out. No matter how much they try to say, you can't call us this and you can't call us that, we must continue to call out this behavior for all of the marginalized groups in this country where the government is now piling on. And it's difficult enough to be an adult. I mean, we all face our problems. And then if you pile on that you're a person of color in this country, and then maybe you're not a high earner, and maybe you might need some SNAP benefits because Walmart doesn't pay you enough because nobody's forced them to pay you enough, and they have all these yachts and planes and all this shit. And then you have people that criticize you and call you lazy and then call you a bad parent. And this is at the essence of what this MAGA movement is this cruelty and zero compassion. And they do it all in the name of religion because they accuse us of virtue signaling. And I'm going to accuse every single one of them of Christian signaling. They all Christian signal to their supporters. And if Trump just drops, oh, they hate Christians or they hate the Bible, nobody is more of an abomination to the radical, compassionate character in the Bible, Jesus Christ, than MAGA Republicans. And that's why they're promoting now this whole thing of toxic empathy, because they have a Jesus problem. They have a problem, you know, combining these two. So they're constantly Christian signaling to their base to keep the cult in line. And the most insidious part about all of this, Jim, I lived in Oklahoma City for 51 years. Trump said something that I think is kind of true. He said the Democratic Party has taken Black voters for granted. I think there's a
Mm,
lot of truth to that.
mm.
But nobody has taken rural, white, working class voters for granted like the Republican Party. And the
That's right.
numbers totally support that. In Oklahoma, when we had a Democratic governor 20 years ago, education was 17th in the country. Now Oklahoma is 50th, dead last in education.
Mm.
And if you don't like your life in these red states where there have been MAGA supermajorities for, 20 years, the people you blame for that are Republicans because they've lied to you. Trickle down economics is a lie. Immigrants taking your job is a lie. It's the AI robots from all of the people that do the trophy presentations for
That's
putting
right.
boy in the White House.
That's right. And Trump is saying, "Oh, we're bringing Merry Christmas back. We're going to say Merry Christmas." Well, Jesus Christ would not have said what Donald Trump said about Somali immigrants.
Mhm.
That is not what Jesus would do. And the other thing that you mentioned there, Jennifer, which is absolutely perfect and absolutely brilliant, is if the MAGA folks are wondering, why did my Obamacare premiums just double? Why can't I afford as much at the grocery store? It's because they are programming you with reasons to hate other people in this country while they're pulling money out of your pocket. They're programming you with racist ideas while they are pulling a fast one on you and stealing money right under your nose and making you force feeding you expensive health insurance, force feeding you expensive groceries in this country because they don't give a shit about you. They
Mhm.
just don't care. What they want to do is keep you hooked into this hate outrage machine that gets pumped out by conservative media. And one example of that, Jennifer, is Megyn Kelly. She is the queen bee of this sadistic empire that has been built by conservative media. And let's play what she said about the drug boats, the alleged drug boats that they're blowing up. This is what she said.
Not only want to see them killed in the water, whether they're on the boat or in the water, but I'd really like to see them suffer. I would like Trump and Hegseth to make it last a long time so that they lose a limb and bleed out a little. Like, I'm really having a difficult time ginning up sympathy for these guys who 10 seconds earlier almost got taken out by the initial bomb, but because they managed to get ejected, a little too soon, had to be taken out in the water. I realize legally it may make a difference, but truly, Mark, this is a tough case to really gin up the sympathies of the American people.
Yeah, really tough. But they, it's sadism. It's pure sadism.
And it is recreational cruelty.
Yeah.
Fox News has served them up this level of cruelty because there's a lot of rage and anger in the country. And Fox News and the Megyn Kellys and the right-wing media ecosystem has such a jump on us. And they serve up a conduit in which they can, travel with their rage. And because we are tribal, human beings are tribal as a species, they play on that. And the Megyn Kelly is a prime example of my hypothesis that once you triple Trump, something in you break. You become a worse and worse person. This is a woman who, conservative, yes. Do I agree with her on anything? Probably not. But back in the day when Trump went after her, that she's got blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever,
Right.
humiliated Marco Rubio, humiliated Ted Cruz. It's unbelievable that he can humiliate these people, humiliate them. It's, unforgivable. I'm drawing a boundary. You're out of my life type situations. And they all go crawling back to him. And if he was like cool or better than what he is, I might kind of get it, but he's fucking awful. There's never any contrition. And he gets off on humiliating these people. And so they just debase themselves. And then whatever that is. And I was looking at the podcast charts the other day, and like, she's like in the news, like number one, number two, millions of people consume that.
Yeah.
And so there's a problem in the United States where he has broken something in us where people traffic in recreational cruelty that has turned into real cruelty with alligator Alcatraz, what we saw when people went to El Salvador. ICE and all of the cruelty that's going on with that. And
Yeah.
it's hard to stay focused on one thing at a time because they're all so mean and crazy. But I'm very happy that we're all building this kind of ecosystem for people to come feel a sense of community, because it's abusive. Hearing her say that is abusive. What Trump is
Horrible.
doing is incredibly abusive to individuals and to our whole national psyche.
I agree with you, and I hate even bringing up Megyn Kelly because she puts out these garbage views, I think, to get the rest of us to talk about her, and that feeds the monster. The monster gets food. But I hope that, if somebody is searching around on YouTube or wherever, and they're a Megyn Kelly fan, and they hear you and I talking about her, I mean, maybe they'll get some sense of reality. I don't
I
know.
I think it's important that we
Yeah,
cover what they
yeah,
do, because I think
yeah.
one of the errors of progressive politics or democratic politics is assumption politics. We
Mm,
assume that people are going to think Megyn Kelly's crazy. We assumed that nobody would ever vote for Donald Trump again after January 6th. We assume all of these things because that's we internalize what we would do. And so we project that onto the masses. And that assumption politics has been a fool's errand for people on our side of the aisle. And I'm just going to say pro-democracy. I'm not even going to say
mhm.
progressive or Democrat, just pro-democracy people. Assumption politics is a fool's errand. And we need to aggressively call out this cruelty and also call out at the same time. Megyn Kelly claims to be a big Christian.
Yeah.
She is a part of the whole family value. She's riled up about kids, riled up that she thinks, kids are going to school and
Mhm.
trans teachers are making other kids trans, and, wieners are getting whacked off at school. And she promotes all of this insane cat litter stuff.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, what she just said is so inhumane and so dehumanizing. It's complete bullshit, her Christianity, her feigned compassion for the well-being of children. She just disproves all of it. So I
She's a
think it's
fraud. Yeah,
important. She's
yeah,
a total fraud. But I
yeah,
do, as unpleasant as it is to talk about, Jim, I'm glad that you played that video,
yeah.
because we have to respond. We have just let the right-wing media echo chamber grow into this crazy cancer, and we
Yes.
have to start negating it.
I agree with you, and it's part of the reason why I do it as much as I can, because to me, years from now, people will study, this outburst of American fascism, and they'll, how the hell did that happen? It must have been just Donald Trump. No, there are all of these mini me's who have carved out these little media empires for themselves, and they have contributed to this very serious problem, this very serious threat to our democracy, and what I say, the American way of life. People, oh, democracy, that's a little pie in the sky. The way of life that, Jennifer, you and I grew up with in this country, which should not be destroyed by these lunatics who are trafficking in what you say, this sort of this cruelty uh, industry that they're trying to peddle out there. The other thing I have to ask about before we go is, I know you're from the South, and so I was curious what you thought of Afton Bain in that special congressional election in Tennessee. No, she did not win, but she took a district that was pro Trump by 22 points in 2024, and I guess she finished in double or single digits. She almost won the darn thing. And what does that say about the South? Because last night she was giving her victory speech, and she was saying that there's this new South that's rising up of people who are, progressives who are tired of being kicked around, who want to fight back. Is there hope for that in the South?
Okay, here's my thoughts on all
Yeah,
of this, and I have a lot, and I
yeah.
think they're really important to share. First and foremost, if you poll people in red states, what do you think about gun control? Majority want it. What do you think about woman's right to choose? The majority want it. What in Oklahoma, in my state, a few years ago, they took it to the people to vote to legalize marijuana, and we voted to do it. So
Mm,
individually, progressive causes, when they're polled individually in red states, a majority wants those things. The problem is the Democrats abandoned a 50 state strategy a long time ago. And had they not abandoned it, Afton Bain could have won that race. And when you abandon a 50 state strategy, you get a mass problem in that state where people are doubling down, tripling down on Republican policies. But furthermore, the Republicans for decades in the South have injected religion into politics. It's delivered through the churches too. When I was growing up in Oklahoma City, I remember I was a young adult, and I remember there's churches everywhere, Jim. And I remember a church on the marquee. It was like, vote for George Bush today. And this was the dumb one. It was like, but it said not the dad, but the other one. Vote for George Bush today. And I remember my husband and I thinking like, it's just such a scam. It's such a scam that he does this compassionate conservatism, and all he cares about are his rich friends. And he had Darth Vader as his vice president. And I just thought all of that was just so terrible at the time.
Yeah.
George Bush and Dick Cheney. But the Democrats abandoning a 50-state strategy has allowed the Democrats to become the boogeyman. And so many people, even though individual, they're progressive, there has been such a propaganda campaign against Democrats through churches where they have taken people that literally believe in spiritual warfare and said the Republicans are the angels and the Democrats are the demons. That's why you see on social media all the time, you demon rat. And so they can never vote for a Democrat because the Republicans have diabolically and brilliantly branded it to where people actively go out and vote against their best interest because otherwise they think they're voting for a demon. And I think the Democrats, this shows you the Democrats need new leadership that go 50-state strategy, grassroots. We have litmus tests of if you take corporate PAC money, I think we can spin the one advantage they have, Republicans taking all this corporate PAC money. If Democrats will swear it all off, I think we can spin it and say, we're not beholden to anyone. And at the same time, it provides Democrats a strategic cover with social issues like trans issues or LGBTQ rights, to where if somebody says to like an Afton Bain, well, what about the trans and the bathrooms and all of these things? She can say, I don't know about any of that, but I'm for an economic policy. And if you're trans, if you're Black, if you're white, if you're a woman, whatever you are, that goes for everybody because I'm an American and I believe in equality. And I think if we just keep beating that drum and we can get back to a 50-state strategy. I read the other day, Jim, I almost died. I have to share this.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Trump is polling at -10 right now. I can't believe it because the state always brags about not one county has ever gone blue in like the last million election cycles. But Oklahoma City is getting very, very, very purple, almost blue. Same with Tulsa. And I just think that if the Democrats could fund a 50-state strategy, we could swing and get an FDR style long term of ruling, democratic rule, because that's how I think it's going to take a generation to fix these 10 months of fuckery.
Yeah. And who knows where we're going to be 3 years from now. I mean, we're just a quarter of the way into this thing. But you're totally right about the 50-state strategy. And I mean, and Trump damaged himself in trying to win this race for this Republican who should have won by like 20 points last night. I think he won by 8 or 9 points, just like a 13-point swing. Trump stepped in it yesterday in that cabinet meeting when he said that affordability is a scam, when he said that the issue of affordability is a scam. That is going to appear in so many ads over the next 12 months that, this goes to the desperation that they're feeling right now. And they can only give grandpa so many cookies to keep him on message. And they just can't do it. I mean, I think that's,
I think, how old people, when they get older, they'll like on their deathbed, like the last year or two, they're like, oh, Jim, I really liked your little sister a lot more than I liked you. You were my least favorite child. They start telling the truth all the time.
That's never going to happen to me.
Of course not. Here's my theory about Trump. Like, he cannot not be on TV. He cannot not do press conferences. He cannot help himself. Nobody around him is like, hey, dude, your dementia is really showing. Cognitive tests will give you that, but you need to tone down the television.
So true.
And so I think we're going to start seeing a lot of deathbed confessions from him. I think we might find out who Bubba is.
Well, and the other day he was saying, am I going to go to heaven? He was speculating about whether or not he was going to go to heaven. And my theory on this stuff about building the ballroom, and now he wants to build the Arc de Triomphe or something like that across the Potomac River. He wants to build all this shit that he thinks will last beyond his years. You know what I mean? And so I think that there's something going on up there, in that.
I think these visits to Walter Reed have definitely he tore down. He also the architect won't work with him anymore because he wants the ballroom to be too really big. I'm an interior designer when I'm not a podcaster, and the scale of the ballroom is such that the architect said, I'm not going to sign off on this because it's going to dwarf the original structure. This is, an addition. And so now he's fired the architect and he's torn this whole east wing down. And now there's no plans in place for it. And that just shows you how impulsive he is. Just tear it down.
It's architectural prosthesis. He's trying to... It's always about size. Have you noticed that? He's got to build stuff that's bigger, and the crowd has to be bigger, and there's just a complex there. But anyway, not that we want to spend time thinking about that.
I could talk about that all day because I have a huge theory about all of that, but we'll do that. We'll gossip about that next time because I think that is at the core of a lot of the homoerotic images of Trump.
There's a lot of that
throughout MAGA. All of these MAGA men have these very homosocial relationships, and all of the right wing MAGA echo chamber. Yeah. It's real. And then did you see the video where he was blaring one of the musicals, like Phantom of the Opera?
He does that. He loves that.
It's just like an old queen, That's why I'm saying he's getting loose lips or sinking ships. And Jim, I promise you this. If he starts loose lips, sink ships on one of his rambling press conferences, I think we're going to get some juicy nuggets. And, I don't want to be dismissive of all of the pain and everything that's going on everywhere. But I think that, and your viewers coming to this channel and us talking, it's a reminder that we can laugh still, and we can fight for democracy, and we can fight for the marginalized all at the same time.
We can do two things at once, and maybe one day we'll find out who the real Bubba is. If we can solve that mystery,
I'm dying to know.
Me too. We'll figure it out. You and me together. Jennifer Welch, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Jim. I really enjoyed it.
You're the best. Me too. Let's do it again soon. Make sure you support independent media. As Jennifer and I were talking about, it is important that we have this independent news community here for us to all share. It is critically important that these places continue to not only survive, but thrive, so we can continue to bring programming like this to you.